Hello backpackers, this is Juan from Juan Backpacks, and I'm here today to share with you my top gear picks from this past year, 2024. Some of these are very small items, some of these are large items and expensive items, but all of them have helped to make my backpacking season really good in 2024. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it today. The first thing is something really simple, and that's a Ziploc bag. And it's actually it's a stay open design of a Ziploc bags. And these are freezer bags, 1 quart. I use these to package my meals like ramen and so forth ahead of time to take with me. The thing that I like about them, and it's a little bit hard to see because this isn't like softened noodles that are cooked, but it has a flat bottom so it stays upright. It also has the stay open design. Again, this is a freezer bag, so you can put boiling water into it to rehydrate your meals that you repackage. It has a stay open design. When you fold this over, and if you've ever tried to do this with other Ziploc bags, you know it doesn't work very well. And guess what? It stays open. Look at that, nice round opening to eat. No more fiddling around with the top of the Ziploc bag. So I'm gonna bring this back on in a second because this links up with another item that I have that I want to talk to you about as well. And that is the pot pocket from Gossamer Gear. Let's take a quick look at what it looks like when it's not folded down. This is a pot pocket from Gossamer Gear. It weighs in at 0.7 ounces, and I use it as part of my cook system. It has a reflective inner on it. It's made a Tyvek on the outside, and then it also has insulation around the pot portion. This design will take up to a 750 milliliter pot, a Tokes pot. I've got a 550 with me today, but it will take the 750 because I've used it with the 750. Has a little handle on it and obviously a drawstring as well. When I'm cooking with it, basically what I do is I'll take it out, I'll take my pot, and obviously it's got my stove in here, lighter load towel, and I'll go ahead and start the cooking process, right? Start heating the water. And then as I'm doing that, I'll take my food and put it down in here. Again, this insulated pouch, a little bit harder to do when the noodles are harder. And then basically I can take this, dump the water in, close the Ziploc. Sometimes I close the Ziploc around my spoon, and I'll close this and have the Ziploc closed around my spoon. Then I close the drawstring, so my spoon's sticking out of here, and then just let it hydrate with the hot water in there. And I can actually take that spoon then and work it around a little bit to try to get, spread the water out and so forth and make sure everything hydrates properly. So that's nice, and I don't have to take everything apart. I don't have to let out some of the heat. So I let this go, and at the point I think I'm ready to eat, all I do is open this up. I can fold this top soft part down like so. And then, like I said, you've got this stay open design on the Ziploc. So I'll open up this Ziploc and fold this down as much as I can around the edge. It doesn't kind of fit over top of it. Probably if you fiddled with it, you could. And there you go. You got a really nice opening that you don't have to fight with to be able to eat when you're really hungry and you're backpacking, and then everything stays nice and warm inside. It hydrates a lot faster. And so that is the pot pocket from Gossamer Gear. I think it comes in about $22 right now. Now, once I'm done cooking and eating, I'll take this, obviously dispose of it, and then I can take the pot, this is 550, throw it down in here with my stove and everything in it. I can even put this, if I don't want to put this inside my pot, I can take this and just set it on top, and there's plenty of room, and I can just cinch all this down, and it's all one unit. And I've got my canister, got my pot for cooking, and all my equipment inside that pot. So it really makes it nice. It's nice and compact. And again, it only adds about 0.7 ounces to your kit. I've tried other homemade reflective kind of pouches. I've even bought expensive ones from different companies to try them out. And this is a pretty reasonably priced item that really makes things super, super simple, because you can use the combination of the Ziploc freezer bag and then just this outer part to eat out of and hydrate your meal. Perfect combination. It's really kind of improved my eating in quick, I can quickly make my meals and so forth. So the next item that I have is a small item, and it comes in at 1.2 ounces, and this is a flip fuel Basically, the flip fuel is designed so that you can take two canisters and feed one canister into another to fill it. And so if I've got my 110 gram canister here and it's empty and I'm at home and I have other canisters, odd canisters, or one big canister to save money, I can dump fuel into here. All I do is I'll take this one that I want to dump into and I'll put it in the freezer for a few minutes to chill it. And then I will take my other canister that I want to dump fuel out of, and I actually put it in the sun outside if it's hot outside, or I'll put it under hot water. Just run hot water. Obviously, you don't want to heat it with a flame or anything like that. That's enough. If you just warm it up with hot water, it works great. I'll take this, screw it on here, screw the one I want to dump fuel out of, and then I turn it on. And it even has a little directional thing here, so you're not doing it the wrong way. There's an in and an out, right? And so you can refuel your canisters. I think this is also a great item if you're going to do town stops on a through hike and you want to go into town and you want to use other canisters and so forth. It's a little bit tricky because obviously you have to chill one of the canisters and warm one of the other canisters. Not so bad when there's sun. What I would do is probably, what I've done is put this in a creek or in cold water to chill it. If I'm like kind of out someplace, just find some water, put it in there, let it chill. The other canister, let it sit out in the sun, and it has basically the same effect. I can dump fuel that way too. So this is a great 1.2 ounces, probably one of the best things you could take with you on a through hike where you're going to do town stops and need to refuel your canister. And you might not be able to buy canisters, but you can find odd canisters that have fuel in it. The next item for 2024 that I really liked was a Crunch It by Jetboil. All this is really designed to do is literally help dispose of your canister. I know a lot of times I worry about these canisters because they might have a little bit of fuel left in them and I'm not sure what to do about it. And so I did have some of these sitting around my house, not sure where to get rid of them. And now I do, because if I have just a tiny bit of fuel, when I screw this little end on, it'll actually expel that tiny bit of fuel left in there that I may or may not know is in there. And then I'll take this is almost like a can opener. This is metal, it's got a cover on it, and it's really sharp. And you take this, once you screw this down on the canister, it acts like a lever, and you can just push down on it and punch a hole, and then you're good to go. You can dispose of the canister without worrying that there's excess fuel in there that you didn't know about or that you couldn't get rid of. And so again, just a really nice item, not one that I'd probably take with me on a road trip, right? But one that's definitely good at home when you're trying to, get rid of some of your canisters and so forth. The other item that I have on my list is something that I brought back from the junk heap, so to speak, and that is the Platypus Quick Draw. When the Quick Draw first came out, I really didn't like it. And the reason that I didn't like it is because the cap on here made it really difficult to take on and off, and it literally was weakening the threads, and it was hard to get. I mean, I literally had to push and squeeze it on. Now it's really simple. And I think that honestly, the first one I had was one of the first runs of the Platypus Quick Draw. And I think there was either a manufacturing flaw or a design flaw in it, because more than one person had posted the same problem that I've had. And I just didn't want it to fail while I was on the through hike. So I just kind of gave up on it because it was just really hard to use in that way. Now the cap goes on and off really easy. I don't have to worry about the threads breaking and not having a secure cap on here. And so I'm going back to it. This thing comes in, I think it's like 2.8 ounces. Let me double check. 2.8 ounces just for this. And the C-Knock bag that I use, this is one of the thicker ones, the newer ones. It's coming in at 3.3 ounces. So, we're around 6 ounces here. But again, it's the C-Knock bag. I use it because it's a little bit more durable than some of the other ones. And so it works out great. I've used this on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I've also used it on the Uinta Highline Trail as well. So the Platypus is back in operation again, back in my kit again, and I'm glad to have it back in the kit. I'm always willing to go back to gear that I don't find works at one point to see if the manufacturers or if they've changed the gear in some way. And in this case, they've definitely improved the gear to where I feel confident in using it. The next item that I have here is kind of getting a little bit more expensive item, and this is the Durston Ice Line trekking poles, and this is just one of them. Two of them combined comes in at 9.5 ounces, which makes them by just a little bit the lightest trekking poles on the market. It's really simple design. You take this little joint here, it clicks in, and there's actually a button here. When you need to take it apart, you push the button and it comes apart. And then this already is your just one flick lock, and it has numbering there. So you can, if you have a trekking pole, it takes a certain, length pole. I think this goes up to a max of 130 centimeters. And so, I think we're down to minimum. I can't read because the numbers have worn a little bit on this one. And so I really like this. I used it on the, when I was on the, you went to Highline Trail for the first 3 days I was there, and I really liked it. I can't say anything bad about this. It's really super light, very comfortable to use. I like the flick lock when I'm using this with the Durston tent, because once you get the Durston tent like pegged out on all four sides, you can just take this and raise it up and then click this over, and it works really good rather than having to twist lock another trekking pole. These are made of carbon fiber, and they're a little bit thicker diameter than most carbon fiber poles, which kind of throws people in the beginning, kind of threw me, but that thicker diameter actually relates to more durability rather than having a very thin diameter, trekking pole, the tube that the trekking pole is made out of. And so I've liked this a lot. It doesn't come with baskets. You can get aftermarket baskets, and I cannot remember the company that actually fits this, but there's a certain company that's mentioned on their website. These are a little bit on the pricey side at 170 bucks as I'm talking about it. One thing I will tell you is that the numbers on mine did wear out, and it really they weren't used very much before the numbers started wearing out. And apparently the process that they use is a little bit different in their first run, and now they've changed that process to make those numbering more durable. And so I'm actually going to get a third section, they call it the middle section of it, to replace it, and it should be good to go. But they lock down really nicely. I wouldn't change a thing about these trekking poles. Now I will say that I also have a bag with it, and I'm not much on the bag, but it's 0.2 ounces. And I did use it when I traveled went to Highline. I think it could come in use. It could be useful when you're actually traveling with your trekking poles, just to keep everything together. But overall, I really don't kind of have a huge use for the bag, but it's good to know that you have it, basically, I guess. I do use the LT5s, so I'm going to mention those. These are the carbon trekking poles from Gossamer Gear. I love these trekking poles. They're only slightly heavier, coming in at 9.8 ounces as opposed to the Durstons at 9.5 ounces, so 0.3 ounces heavier than the Durstons. So very comparable. They've got a thinner, thinner diameter tube that they're using. They have straps. I hear that the Durstons are going to come out with straps in subsequent versions of the trekking pole, but I like these probably just as much as the Durstons, just in terms of use and so forth, and I'll use these at times, so I kind of switch back and forth. These are twist lock, and that's the reason that I don't use them when I use my Durston tent, because it's just harder when you're trying to adjust the height the way the Durston sets up to do the twist locks. And so the fleck locks always work better with the Durston tent. And speaking of the Durston tent, that is my last item that I really enjoyed for 2024. I've actually had this item for actually 2 years now, and I really haven't had enough use with it to really talk about a lot. And I will do a more in-depth review of this tent, but I love the Durston X-Mid Pro 1. It's a fantastic tent. I don't know that is super enthusiastic as some people about it. I just think it's a good solid trekking pole tent. I think there's a good solid design there. It sets up with four stakes very easily, and for most uses that's as good as you need. And then also you can stake out the doors if you want to have the vestibule set up so you can put stuff underneath it while the door is open. And so it's really been a great trekking pole tent. The only thing I would say about this, that when I had it on the Tahoe Rim Trail for the 170 miles that I did there, and then had it for 3 days on the Highline Trail, I would say that the cords that you use are a little bit short. The guy lines on the four corners are a little bit short. And I know why they're short. They're short because of the design and the setup. and that's the kind of the optimal length for the setup and getting the pitch right. But there are times when you do need extra guy line, and I'm going to make some guy line that can loop on and extend the guy line a little bit for when I need to do rock anchors or dead man anchors, which happens a lot in the Sierra. If you're picking your camping spot based on the view and so forth, sometimes you're actually on rock, and you need to use rocks to set up because you can't drive a stake into the ground. And so you got to be able to do both in the Sierra, I think. And so that's the only thing I would say about this tent is the guy line's a little bit short for doing rock anchors. But I did switch out the stakes in this tent. And again, I'm not going to do an in-depth review. I'll do that in another video. But I switched out for 2 regular-sized groundhogs, and I'm sorry, 4 regular-sized groundhogs and 2 mini groundhogs. And I just like the groundhogs because they hold really well. Plus, I wanted that extra length in the squareness that's created by the groundhogs when I have to do a dead man anchor and I'm laying that stake on its side and then putting a rock on top of it, like a small rock and then a big rock. It just stays put a lot better and doesn't tend to shift and slide around when I'm putting a lot of tension on the guy lines. And so I like the groundhogs for that purpose. You can see I'm using the original bag that Durston had with it. And then you can see here, that's one of the larger groundhogs, just so you know, in case you don't know what a groundhog looks like. And I like those a lot for rock anchors that you do out in the Sierra and other places where you can't drive the stakes into the ground. My whole setup comes in, I think it's like 23.4 ounces, and I'm going to double check that. That's literally the tent, I have the Durston ground sheet with this, and then the stakes that I just mentioned, 4 large groundhogs, and then the mini, 2 minis. And so I'm literally looking at, let's see what I got here, 23.1 ounces. So I'm at 23.1 ounces all in with the ground sheet too. So that is not too bad for a trekking pole tent. So that is my 2024 roundup or review, or kind of the best gear that I had. You can see it goes from the small stuff that really just makes things more convenient and improves my experience overall, to the bigger, more expensive stuff that basically has the same effect, but costs me a little bit more money to do. This is all great gear. If you have gear that you really like, that you want to see, I've got some new gear coming for 2025 that I'm going to talk about on my videos. But if you want to know anything more about this gear, or if you want a more in-depth review of any of this gear, because most of it I haven't done an in-depth review during 2024 or 2023 when I had some of this stuff, because I just didn't feel like I had enough miles and enough time in. And now I think I've got enough time and miles in with all this gear that I can dive in. So let me know if you want to have any specific reviews of any of the gear that I mentioned today. So till next time, backpackers, get out there, do some backpacking, do some hiking, stop watching YouTube videos, unless they're mine, then watch them all from start to finish.